It seems to me extraordinary. First of all, that this country is doing deals to let yet more foreigners come here on visas to work. We're letting about 1 million a year in already, but we're doing a deal with India, and I suppose if the price of a very advantageous trade deal is letting a few of their workers come here, OK, I can go along with that. But what I can't go along with is that part of this deal, Starmer, a two-tier tax system, these Indian workers that come here won't have to pay national insurance. You and I and every other worker in Britain has to pay national insurance. The poor employers, the companies who employ people, have just had to hike. They've been ordered to hike their national insurance contributions to such an extent many companies have broken down, have gone bust. And now we learn that these foreigners, these Indian workers who are going to come here, won't be paying it. They'll be exempted. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it was deeply unjust. I mean, look, India has pushed for visa relaxation schemes ever since the idea of having a free trade agreement with India was on the table post-Brexit. Now, I used to live in India. I adore India.
I do too.
I love Indians. I think they're brilliant, hardworking, innovative, exceptional people. They're polite. They're wonderful. You come across so many Indians now in the hospitality sector in the UK, and you couldn't find more gracious, disciplined people. But the point is this. They should be treated like British citizens when they come and work in this country, probably not sounding unfair, but not as well as British citizens. They should have to be able to provide proof of medical insurance. But what they shouldn't be is less expensive to hire than the native population. And under these rules, essentially, it's going to be 20% cheaper for an employer to employ an Indian worker than a Brit. How on earth is that supposed to benefit our society when we've got worklessness that is currently off the charts, particularly in the lower paid sectors, particularly among 18 to 25-year-olds? Maybe that's because they're feckless and want to sit around dreaming one day of being an Instagram star and don't actually do a hard day's work. But the point is, if they're not being paid decently or they're not going to be offered jobs, we're not going to break that egregious cycle. And if you are a pub and you face really high business rates, taxation on alcohol higher than it's ever been, energy costs the highest in the world, and you are struggling just to keep your doors open, and the staffing costs went through the roof because of the added insult of increased employers' national insurance, you're going to be looking at this thinking that's the only solution, to employ Indian workers. And like I said, you know what? Great. You know, you've already got lots of Indian workers in hospitality in London. I'm not sure other parts of the country. But why on earth aren't they British workers? As much as I adore Indians, this is not about race. This is not about xenophobia. I lived there, okay? But this is absolutely crazy that in theory it is now far cheaper to hire people from the other side of the world than it is your own young people. And it's particularly in those jobs that young people should be doing and young people should be getting that they're going to be punished.
Also, absolutely very good point that employers, companies will be extremely moved to employ these Indian workers because they'll be cheaper, much cheaper for the companies, for the employers. But also, imagine this. You're sitting, you're working, you're in the office or the factory or wherever. You're sitting next to a guy or a woman who's come over from India. That person, you're doing exactly the same job. That Indian person is going to be earning more than you, because they won't be paying national insurance. This is not going to go down well, is it?
Right, and one assumes they'll have the same access to all the public services that our taxes afford, be it the NHS, be it the road networks, be it the maintenance of railway lines, be it bus services, be it street lighting, you name it. There's not going to be a difference between what they can access and enjoy that's paid for out of our taxes, and yet they won't be paying the same amount. Now, people say, well, it's because they'll be paying tax back at home in India. Well, yeah, maybe about 30 rupees, which is equivalent of about, 3 quid or or something. You know, it doesn't bear to think about this idea now that this is what successive governments have done. They've made it so difficult for businesses to thrive in the UK because of the cost of energy, because of the cost of businesses, because of how complicated the tax system is. They've made it impossible to be an industrialist or an entrepreneur in this country, and so business has essentially been imploding in on itself. And so what they do is they go for the cheap option of bringing in inexpensive foreign labour to paper over the cracks. They've done this repeatedly. This is not a new tactic, and this is what people voted against in Brexit, because people understood when they looked, if they worked on the production lines or they worked in hospitality or they worked on building sites, they suddenly went, how come all of these people have come into the country and are doing jobs, driving down the wages, creating wage compression, and we're not being given a fair salary? And we're the people who live here. We're the people who want to send our children through school here. We're the people who want to buy a house in this country. We're the people who, in our old age, want to be looked after by this nation because this is our land. And constantly governments have been using the cheap and ineffective sticking plaster of handing industries and various sectors cheap labour from foreign countries as some sort of recompense for screwing them financially in all the other ways they can. But this doesn't work. It leads to terminal decline.
And it's very divisive. As Robert Jenrick said, British workers come last in Starmer's Britain.